This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
Look, setting the pace with Alex and Fauci. Alex and Fauci, Alex and Alex. If I put our jacks in the paint, how you gonna stop me? How you gonna stop me? We can go head to head. Call out your top three. Call out your top three. Look at the switch from Duarte. Now that boy got three. We got Halliburton running point. This is the Bennedict for the shot. If anybody gon' come in the post, then we got Jalen Smith for the block. Setting the pace, going to the top. Setting the pace, going to the top. This is your number one podcast. Sweeping every team. We gon' need a mop. Smooth.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We now welcome on NBA veteran, former Indiana Pacer, CJ Myles. CJ, what's going on?
I'm doing good, man. We've been battling to get this done, but we made it finally, though.
We have everybody. I've been on CJ, but the man was true to his word, made it happen. We appreciate it. You know, CJ, Pacer Nation misses you, man. I mean, some of your best years were with the Pacers, and we don't forget about that. We hold those years fondly.
I loved Indiana, man. Indiana, I always tell people those are my favorite years because I felt the most at home there. I had a good base with the organization. And then I had my wife, now part of her family lived in Indiana also. So we had some really good just support systems there. And it doesn't make it, it's not too shabby when Larry Bird sits you down to come play for his team either. So
that's always got to be cool. Actually, I think it was like literally just yesterday, just recently, Larry Bird finally stepped down overall. So, I mean, quite an era, quite a run that he had with the Pacers. But, you mentioned your wife. She was always very nice to Pacer fans on Twitter. I always remember her having like a Twitter presence. So I thought that was really cool. You always love when the family buys in like that. So that's really cool. I didn't know that she's from Indiana.
The funny thing about that is every time, so me and Josh Corbeil, the head trainer, we still talk. Like, that's my guy. We still, and every time we speak, the first thing that comes out of his mouth or the first thing he texts me is he says, Lauren cracks me up on Twitter. That's the first thing he said. That's his favorite person to follow. He said that since I was in Indiana. And I was there actually during the draft workouts. I saw the kid you guys drafted work out. I was at his workout, and he said,
awesome.
Said it to me right when I walked in the building that day too. So
love it. Well, you were fresh off the TBT. You played with the sideline cancer team. I know, unfortunately, it didn't work out. You guys actually had a 1-point, victory in the first round. But overall, I went to the TBT. I want to say like the first or second year that they had it. It's gotten better and better, more competitive each year. Tell me about your experience at TBT this year.
It was fun, man. It was my first time. I had watched on TV. But my first time going and being around it, and I had a couple of guys that lived near me in San Antonio that were playing on that team, so they asked me to come out, and I definitely want to go back next summer and play again. But Sideline Cancer is a great organization. They bring great awareness to their causes, also, which is one of the other reasons why I felt good about aligning with them, just because of the way they stand on it being more than basketball. And that made it even more fun.
Love it. Hey, I hope to see you out there again and making a big run. I'm a West Virginia alumni. Best Virginia, they're a 1 seed. I'm hoping they can go far. A lot of guys from when I was back in school, so pretty cool stuff. But I listen to the Knuckleheads podcast. Darius Myles, Quentin Richardson. Darius Myles holds players drafted out of high school in the highest regard. You were one of those players, actually one of the last players drafted straight out of high school back in 2005 before they changed the rule. What was that feeling that you had that made you feel, I'm ready for the NBA?
I just, I wanted to play basketball. That's what I knew. That's what I knew from the time I was 3-4 years old, and I was in a position where what I wanted to be, I could go learn from the people already doing it. And I always felt like if I got there, I had the work ethic to stick and stay and figure out my way to be a player in the league. And have a great career. But I just felt like that was the best route for what I wanted. Nothing against going to school. Like, do I think later when I'm 25, 27, if we have a logical conversation about it, or now as a grown man, I would tell you that I could have benefited from school. Yes. But at that time, like I wanted to play basketball with the best players in the world. I wanted to know where I would stack up and where I could stack up. And that was, people don't get the thing that, their ideal job right out of high school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have been auditioning for that job for 14, 15 years already. Like, I was getting ready for that day.
That must have been tough because, you look at that Jazz team, you got Jerry Sloan, like the veteran of all veteran coaches back then. It must have been hard for you to break in and get some playing time. But it shows a little bit of our age, as I remember being the D League, not the G League now. And I know it's changed a lot since then, but you recently did a stint in the G League. Can you tell us about the differences from back then to now?
One, there's more teams. The first time I went, I think there was like only a handful of teams. So like every time we would play everybody twice. So like if we were going to play a team in Dallas, we play on Thursday and Saturday just so we could get the most out of our games. And then, but no, just the resources now. Obviously something grows, the league grows, money grows, funding for things grow. Like, and it's younger. That's the biggest thing. It's way younger. When I came out, there were a lot of veteran guys like playing in the D League because it was basically, right there. They were that close, and they didn't feel like going overseas and committing to a season benefited them in case somebody called. Now it's really turned more like baseball. Like guys are developing and getting chances to further their skill set, and whether they're a two-way player or they're just a kid that people are watching with the Ignite program, they got guys that are coming in and getting ready for the draft.
Exactly. Look, the pay's better, the talent's better. I mean, you were talking about now getting the 5-star recruits going straight to, the G League Ignite team and being able to develop and then end up being, perhaps the second overall pick, like Jalen Green recently. So overall, I feel like you're starting to see the top talent go over to the G League, which is very different than, 15 plus years ago, when you were going through it. But after stints in Utah, Cleveland, you come over to the Pacers. We talked about what it was like, to have Larry Bird be signing and everything. What made you choose the Pacers, and what would kind of be something that you might tell, an incoming free agent who's taking a look at Indiana?
So my decisions are always based off basketball. So like when I was a free agent, how many times? 3 times or whatever many times it was in my career. It was always based off strictly basketball because that was what I was going for. I was never picking, based off city, based off weather, based off. I always looked at the roster, what they were doing, where they were going, what I wanted. And that's just how I looked at it. And I think sometimes, guys pick the pretty outside and they get there and they don't like the basketball side and they're miserable. Doesn't matter if the sun's out, if you're miserable every day with what you got to do every day. I wanted to want to go to the gym. And like I said, the first meeting being with Larry Bird definitely makes you want to go to the gym. But obviously the history of the organization and then where they were at right there, they were the number 1 team in the East when I was coming. This is the summer I signed is the summer that Paul breaks his leg. So it was a wild ride because that was the summer he broke his leg and Lance left the same summer. And I'm coming into that program thinking that I'm going to be, which we talked about at the meeting, being 6-man for a team that's already like, and to bring shooting for indie games and things like that, like a role that was needed for the roster that I saw the year before and ends up changing, and I think some of that was for the better for me, like not to wish anything on anybody, but some of that was better for me because I got opportunities that first year to grow in a way that I wouldn't have gotten at the age of 25, 26 anywhere else, which was great.
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly where my mind went to, of saying that when you say you look at the talent on a roster and that's what you make your decision off of, it must have really taken the wind out of the team to have Paul George go down like that, because you got to think the framework's still there. You still got David West. You still got Roy Hibbert. George Hill's there. I mean, this is a team that is looking to go to 3 straight conference finals. And to be honest, no offense to anybody, but the bench had been a weakness in the previous 2 rounds against Miami, previous 2 seasons against Miami, the conference finals. So hearing that you were brought in to be that 6th man, I mean, that was really kind of what the Pacers were missing at that time. So what was the vibe like knowing that all of a sudden things change? Paul George is out.
It was figure it out, you know. I think myself and Rodney Stuckey benefited from that year so much. Like, we got to play roles even greater than what we thought we were going to get to do, and we showed that we could handle the roles. That was the biggest thing, because it doesn't matter if they're going to give you the 33 minutes, 34 minutes if you're not gonna do anything with them. So, but it was just us figure it out, you know. I still think we make the playoffs if George Hill doesn't have the groin injury or the injury, whatever injury it was that makes him miss a bunch of games.
1 game shy, you guys finished at the end of the year. I remember it was that close.
I remember being in Memphis, and they put the Memphis game on TV because we had to win to get in the playoffs, but we also needed somebody to lose.
Yep.
And they told us during the game, I'm talking to one of the announcers, I walked by the table, and they tell me that the other team won.
I think it was the Nets. I could be wrong, but I think it might have been.
I can't remember.
But I just remember it was like, I felt like you guys had that momentum. Paul George is back. He plays like 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, he came back, and we thought, but we really thought we had a good chance of being in the playoffs and scaring somebody in that playoffs, just because of the momentum we had. Like you said, we had gained, and the guys rose that they had grown into, and the way we were playing at the time. Like, between myself, George, and Rodney Stuckey and Paul coming back, and obviously David West and Roy Hibbert being the veterans they were, we still had a chance to play small and big. So we felt like we could match with people once we got in the playoffs.
You know, you talked about how you felt you guys could have made some noise. You were a part of some extremely hard-fought playoff series while you were with the Pacers. I mean, that 7-game series against the Raptors, which, to be honest, I still believe that you guys should have won when you guys were the 7th seed. And then also the series against Cleveland. It's not the side of history you want to be on, but it's the closest sweep in NBA history. It's 16 total points in 4 games. The series was that close. Now, during that time, you make a fantastic move on Richard Jefferson. You actually shake this man from Cleveland all the way to Indiana, pretty much. You get a good look. Shot doesn't go in. But at the end of the game, you know, Paul George is saying, I got to get that shot. But if you watch the video, Paul George is heavily guarded out by the 3-point line. He doesn't have the same type of look that you have. There's many scenarios where that shot will go in. For you, what's your mentality afterwards? Is it just, hey, shoot is shoot and I'll shoot it again? Or is it really we got to get the ball to Paul at the end of the game?
It's completely situational. Like, I would definitely shoot the shot again in the same situation.
I think you should.
It's a shot that I've made numerous times. We can go find clips of me shooting that same shot in games. I make that shot all the time. I missed that one, but the biggest thing was I was put in the game in case what happened. I wasn't in the game the play before. I was put in the game for that possession in case he had to pass it, got double, whatever, have to have another weapon on the floor along with whoever else. I don't remember who else was on the floor at the time, but I get it. I knew what was coming. Like I didn't, like, even without Paul saying anything, and me and Paul hashed that out the next morning. That was heated a battle thing. Like, that didn't even shoot me, but I knew what was coming with it just because we live in, it's still entertainment. And everybody wants to see the superstar take that shot no matter what. They want to see him take a bad shot, but they just wanted him to have it. And people look at it like, because they want to see those plays. But if we're talking basketball, like, the right play was made in that situation.
No doubt.
So I would definitely, and I said I was at that time one of the best shooters in our league. Like, I mean, was and am and will be if I'm back on to whatever you want to call it. But I was, and that's written. Like, you can go look up the numbers for that. Like, especially that year. So that did not shake my confidence in any way. It just, it was the playoffs. Everything's under a microscope.
Exactly. And look, I know for a fact that's a shot you've made a ton of times. If that shot goes in, I don't think Paul is saying I still need that shot at the end of the game. It's just the fact that it didn't. But you look at in the finals, the biggest moments, MJ passes it, John Paxson hits a game winner. Steve Kerr hits a game winner. You look for the best shot available. You had the look. Paul George is guarded 3-point line. I want to say it was by LeBron. So I don't know how successful that look would have been. And you're also got to factor in there's no time left. This is not like, there's not like you shot it with 16 seconds to go.
So this is my thing. Like if I hold it and try to get the ball to Paul,
he might not get a shot off.
Nobody gets a shot, and now I'm an idiot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, exactly. So like I don't win in either way in this situation. And I said this at that time. You think I went out there and didn't want to have that ball in Paul George's hands to be able to shoot a good shot to win a game? Like, that was the thing that baffled me about it. You think that I didn't know we were trying to get the ball to him? Like, you think I went out there and was like, I'm taking this shot no matter what? Like, I went out there and we ran the play. We're going to do whatever we're going to do. The clock gets down. It comes to me. Now it's time to play basketball. Like, there's all the other stuff is off. Like, you got to go find a way to get a shot off, make a shot, whatever it is, make a play.
Yeah. Nate McMillan, guy that you put under in Indiana. One of the knocks on Nate was, struggled to get the Pacers out of the first round. And this was, did you play under Nate or was this just strictly Frank Vogel?
My last year was under
Nate. So I thought you had at least 1 year with Nate. He had some teams that were right over there. I mean, that Cleveland team you're talking about, it was such a hard-fought series. The Pacers continue to be in a hard-fought series. What can you tell us about, Nate McMillan as a coach?
I love Nate. I mean, he was, he had a little bit of old school still in his ways, which was needed. And that's the way, that was our identity also. We were like right, almost teeter-totter in the line of going small and getting fast, but still having some of that old school mentality. And I think we needed that with the way we were built. And teams that win have a bit of that old school stuff in their system. Like even Golden State, they have some old school principles. So they hit people, they guard, they screen. It's not just them pretty playing, shooting threes and hoping they go in. Like people, it's masked by the way people look at the game. But they have a lot of their top defenses most years when they're winning, when they're really good. Like they're really well coached and have a lot of old school principles. But Nate, that was the biggest thing. And then it was easier with the transition because he was already there. So he obviously it's harder to move up a seat because you have relationships with guys that have to change, but it was easier for us to keep our identity because he moved up, but he also allowed guys to play within their games, like freedom within what they did. Like I remember I was having a film session and he was like, he would show guys a clip and he was like, that's not what you do. And then he showed them the clip of what they do and say, this is what you do. And it's like, you have all the freedom in that realm because this is the part of your game that's the strongest and what makes us go. And then, this is selective opportunity, this stuff you're doing on this side. But he showed that to everybody from top to bottom. Like, and I think that was big because it was honest, wasn't trying to please people, trying to get the best out of guys.
Yeah, Nate has always been labeled, old school. I mean, he's obviously a player that, was a hard worker in the 90s, also then, coached in Seattle, in Portland. I think that, the Pacers showed that I don't think Nate McMillan was by any means the problem when they brought in Nate Bjorken, and it only lasted a year. And then you see Nate McMillan have a lot of success with Atlanta, takes him to the conference finals after he's appointed midway through the year. So good coach over there that I feel like, at times should probably get a bit more credit. Also an assistant with Team USA.
The Nate Bjorken situation was weird to me.
Yeah.
Because I had him for a year in Toronto.
You did. Yeah, you did.
I knew him. So I thought that was, I didn't see that going the way it went. Like,
I don't think anyone did.
Some of the stuff that you heard too. Like I was like, that sounds like a different. It didn't even sound like the guy that I was around. So I mean, and obviously I don't want to speak on what I don't know.
Exactly.
But
Look, yeah,
and about when you just said his name, and I was like, it reminded me how weird that was.
The reports were strange. They're talking like he was like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of thing, like hot, cold one day is this, and that. But I understand where the Pacers were going with trying to find that young, innovative coach, something different, not recycling a hire. And then when it didn't work out, they go the safe route, a guy who they're very familiar with, Rick Carlisle. This is his third stint in Indiana, guy who's won a championship. Feels like you can't really go wrong there. But, going back to you, after being out of league for a bit, COVID, COVID sidelined some players, you make your comeback to the G League. Then you end up getting the 10-day contract with the Celtics. You appear in a game against Cleveland. Look, even if it was just one game, how much did it mean for you to make it back to the NBA?
It was a lot, man, just because it kind of just felt like obviously we know we're not going to play forever. And like I'm looking at like this year count, that's 17 years. That's a long time to do anything.
Yeah.
And but I felt like the moment that it all, like I had 2 minor surgeries, they were minor, but they just took time to heal, and everything came, and it just felt like everything's been snatched from under me. And it was just a weird feeling. It was overwhelming because I wasn't ready at the time. I knew I was going to be close in the next, whatever amount of years, but I wasn't ready. And just to go through, all the time it took to get my body back, even in a space to be able to do that, just because the situations where I couldn't move, like there were minor surgeries, but they just shut me down. So one, I had pins that had to stay in my wrist. I couldn't sweat. So I couldn't work out. So
I don't know what you're supposed to do at that point as a basketball player.
It's like minor stretching and little things to try to, but it's it's literally a shutdown. And you're talking about a body that's been rolling since 2000 since 90 whatever, basketball, like still to this day around this time of year, August hits, I start to get antsy just because my body is programmed.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
And then I had the foot thing before that. And I was just getting, into some type of, good feel about my body from that before I hurt my wrist. And it was just the pandemic hits. And then we have a baby during the pandemic. And there's just a lot. Thank you. There's a lot going on. But I just remember just being at home, like these opportunities will pop up and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get to them. And then COVID sat me down twice in opportunities. On the 10-day when I was with Boss, I got COVID then. Oof. And I didn't get to play. I would have got to play in some of those games, but to get back in the arena was just a testament of just not laying down, just sticking with it.
And I definitely respect that. And like I said, even if it was just one game, it shows, you got to stay ready in order to do that. A lot of guys can't stay ready, so I give you a lot of credit for that. But then that also brings me to my next question. Are you retired or are you still active? Because the people miss you, but we haven't heard any final word.
I'm active right now. I still work and play. But I'm just in a space now that I'm not chasing, I guess.
Okay, I understand.
I can say I'm not active or not talking and we're not, but I'm just not in this I gotta because I want the last few years to just be fun and be the right opportunities in the right space. I want it to be wrapped around my love for it more than me overlooking my love for it because I feel like I got to be somewhere because that's what people think I should be. Like the thing with the TBT, I almost didn't play because people were asking, when I said it, people asked me you're going to go play in that? Like it was beneath me or something. And I was like, I want to play basketball.
I was about to say Hooper's.
And I'm like, I want to play. I don't have nothing left to prove to anyone about anything with basketball. Yeah. Like I said, I sat at tables with legends. I've shook hands with them. They've told me they've admired the way I put in work in the game. They let me know I gave it its just due. That's the best way I should say it. Like Larry Bird sitting in the locker room and in the gym with me and talking to me about the way that I work, let me know that I was treating it the right way. Did I always do everything perfect? No, but I did a lot.
You did. And we're talking about 15 plus years from someone who came straight out of high school. I want you to show me the sample size of people that have succeeded over there. It's not many. So I give you a lot of credit for that. But while it was maybe a 10-day stint, whatever it was, you ran into now a current Pacer, Aaron Nesmith. Can you tell me a little about Nesmith? Because Pacer fans are very excited. We feel like this is someone that his best basketball is in front of him.
For sure. Young, athletic, strong, talented kid. He's got very much a lot of potential to be like a solid 3-point shooter and solid defender right now. I know the rest is, I was only around him a little bit, but just when I saw, like athletically, he's elite. Like I saw him do some things in just a couple of days that you don't see guys do. But I think it's just a matter of playing, working himself in a way to make sure he gets opportunities so he can play and get experience, because that's when it really comes together. Like you can do as many workouts as you want. Like you got to put yourself in a position to be able to play so you can get experience and the game slows down some for you.
Former 14th overall pick, a guy who absolutely lit it up in college, but I feel like he goes to a Boston team where a lot of talented players over there. So we're hoping that he has more of an opportunity to shine in Indiana. But, that's not the only Pacer that you've played with. There's still one that's still on the roster. That's Myles Turner.
Man, Myles
you play
Turner.
with a young Myles. So tell me a little bit about what Myles was like early on, I think right around like a rookie, to, how you've seen his game grow.
As a person, he's still the same, man. Like eager, thirsty to learn, thirsty to explore. Like he's very much enjoying life. And that's one thing I've always admired about him. Like he is going to live to the fullest and he's going to work too. A lot of guys can't figure out how to balance it. But he's done that. And then the growth of him, just like him really taking the real challenge defensively, is one of the things I love about him the most. Like he takes protecting that rim to heart.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he has the mobility to be able to guard some wings and in certain situations to guard some smaller guards in late clock situations. He's shown he can do that. And then obviously he always wanted to shoot threes. So we knew this from the beginning. It just they weren't letting it happen in the beginning. But we knew he had the potential to be able to do it, and he's grown, and his touch has grown, and but I think his toughness is the biggest thing that's grown, and him showing it and not being afraid to let you know that he's here and putting a stamp on the game.
I think he's the best shot blocker in the world. I think that injuries is the only thing that's holding him back in terms.
I agree.
I mean, you got other guys that they might do other qualities of defense a little bit better. When it comes to shot blocking, I think Myles, if he was healthy, would have led the league in shot blocking each of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So
his only competition is what, Rudy Gobert? That's what they always.
Rudy Gobert keeps winning Defensive Player of the Year.
So yes, but my thing with him, he's winning by metrics.
Yeah,
like by the numbers when he's on the floor.
Exactly.
I know there's situations he can't be in the game.
Yeah. Oh, there is, and we've seen it in the playoffs.
Game. I can have Myles in the game and feel real comfortable. There's not a lot of lineups that I would be like, I can't have Myles in the game. I know a lot, and then we have to put Rudy on people that stand in the corner because he can't be in the pick and roll.
Mm-hmm.
He's not so much a shot blocker as he is a giant to me.
Yeah,
he doesn't go get people shots. Like he doesn't sniff out a play. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same. It's not the same. That's the best way to put it.
No. I definitely hear you on that. For a guy who's making over $200 million, the fact that there are situations where he can't be on the floor at the end of the game is very interesting. So, we'll see how it shakes out in Minnesota after they've given up about their whole future, for him. We'll see how that shakes out. But one thing right now, us Pacer fans, Tyrese Halliburton has sparked this hope in us that we could go to places maybe we haven't been before because we got someone that can make others better. You had an opportunity to play with some pretty elite point guards in your day. You got some, Darren Williams, Kyrie Irving, Kyle Lowry. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but can you tell us the importance of a true all-star level point guard that can make those around him better?
They just make the engine. They just make everybody go. You know what I mean? They have such a feel on the game, and they understand, if it's my shot I'm supposed to be taking, or if somebody needs to get a look, if somebody's been struggling, how to get them an easy one to get them going, just like little things, and that from that stand, and then just be an extension of like the game plan, what we're trying to do, because nobody wants to hear the coach yelling all the time. So having that person that's an extension, and there's usually a couple guys, but the point guard needs to be one of them, I think, allows it to be said in a language that's easier to take than it feels like somebody's just on your back all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that's a key component to have. But those guys, man, they like Kyle Lowry was one of the best at just the feel of the game that I played with and saw. Like when to take his long pull-up three, when to, you know what I mean, when to get a guy, how to figure out how to get a guy layup. He screened. He did all the little things that made his guys trust him, which allowed him to lead the way he did, because you knew he was going to dive on the floor. You knew he was going to take charges. You knew he was going to run the play to the best his effort to get, if it was a shot for you to get you open or to get it. He did that. And I admired him a lot for that, or admire him.
Yeah, NBA champion. I mean, look, the man put in the work. You got to respect it. So overall, one of my last questions is basically, look, this Pacers team is beyond young, and the league keeps getting younger and younger. Do you feel that they've kind of phased veterans out? Because I know when you were entering the league, there was still vets. Now there's Udonis Haslem, and then there's a bunch of guys that are like in their young 20s.
Yeah, definitely it's a part that's missing. It's definitely needed. Just because there's a lot of nuances to their game, and there's a lot of knowledge and things that can be given just from a voice. Guys that have been there, done it, know how to speak to guys, and then having a template of the real amount of work that it takes to do this at a high level for a long time. I think guys need to be able to see that a little bit. They need to see a guy that's in his 12th year that's still there before you even wake up, breaking a sweat, understanding the amount, you know what I mean? Like a guy that's been doing it solid for a lot of years. I think that's, just important for guys coming up to just be able to take on some of those habits and figure out what works for them, instead of it kind of speeds up the learning curve.
Absolutely. I've always said you need to have a pro teach the young guys how to be a pro. And with that, we've seen guys who all-stars. I think it was Chris Bosh who said he thought he had worked his butt off until he realized that Kobe Bryant had already worked out for a few hours before he even started. So you got to see that and then know this is what, the measuring stick is. So for my last question for you, what was your favorite moment as an Indiana Pacer?
Ooh. I don't know.
Got to hit us with one. I mean, the people want to know. I mean, what comes to mind? Your time as a Pacer, you take yourself in your head. What is the image that you see?
It's just like the whole time is just a special time to me. Not that there's not a game there's games I remember just being able to grow into being in moments where, the 3-point plays are drawn up for you at end of games and the tie games or to take leads, or to be able to make these games in that building that shifted the momentum and hearing the crowd go crazy, like those timeout threes, like those are my favorite in there because the crowd was always into it. And that was the start of my 3-point celebration. That was the start of that. That came there. So there's so much. Like I said, I always felt like I was at home. Like I felt like I was in that. Like it was a gym in Dallas. Like I felt like that when I played there. And I think I attribute that to me playing so well compared to other years of my career. Just a big part of it, just from that alone, just feeling like I was accepted. They wanted me to do well. They wanted me to be the person I was there. And I allowed to give them more than that. I was allowed to because of the support they gave me.
Absolutely love it. Hey, CJ, I want to thank you a lot for coming on the show, and tell everybody where they can find you out on social media.
Masfresco on MASFRESCO on Twitter, on Instagram. That's pretty much all I have. I'm not hip enough for TikTok.
Neither am I. I've never made one. I don't know if I ever will. We upload some content there. There we go.
One. I was gonna try, and then I went to I was so intimidated by making the first one. I was like, I'm not ready yet. So maybe when I think of some real content ideas, I'll start to do some of that stuff. But
well, CJ, we appreciate you, and thanks again.